Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us today on this webinar on sugar and ethanol. आप सबका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आज के इस वेबिनार में. So today, myself, Sunny Agrawal, and my colleague Sumit, he will be walking. So we will be talking about sugar and ethanol as a sector. So it's a very interesting presentation where we have tried to cover various basic aspects like how ethanol is produced, various routes through which ethanol is produced, then ethanol का जो अलग अलग प्रोडक्शन मेथडोलॉजी है वहाँ से कौन से इथेनॉल को कितना दाम मिलता है सरकार की ओर से, एट द सेम टाइम विच आर द कंपनीज जिनकी इथेनॉल कैपेसिटी बहुत बड़ी है और कौन बेनिफिशियरी हो सकता है. So without much ado, I think I would like to invite my colleague Sumit to walk us through the presentation on sugar and ethanol, and post our presentation. We will try to address all your queries pertaining to this sector. Just my kind request is that let us restrict our question to sugar and ethanol as a sector so that we can make this interaction more focused and interactive. Yeah, thanks, and over to you, Sumit.
Yeah, so thank you, thank you, Sunny sir. So sugar and ethanol, the two sectors are quite interlinked, as we'll see that the production process is very much interlinked, and this sector has been in the news since the last 5 to 6 years. Once the government decided that the ethanol has to be blended with petrol as a fuel for the automotive fuel purpose. And lately, the sector also has been focused because of plenty of regulatory interventions from the government. So we'll see one by one what are the triggers, what are the factors that impact the industry, as well as the stocks in this space. So starting with the key factors that are aiding the ethanol industry. So the main reason why ethanol, the decision has been taken to blend ethanol with petrol is that it is an environment friendly fuel. It helps in, it acts as a fuel as well as when blended with petrol, the carbon emission drops quite significantly. So, as in India as well as global countries are transitioning towards electric vehicles and other cleaner forms of fuel, ethanol also forms a very important byproduct of the sugar industry, which can be blended with petrol. So, naturally, environment friendly fuel hai. Second thing is this helps in reducing the oil import bill. तो इंडिया जो क्रूड ऑयल इंपोर्ट करता है एंड उससे जो पेट्रोल मतलब कन्वर्ट करके पेट्रोल बनाता है, तो नेचुरली जब आप 10 to 15% एथेनॉल उसके साथ ब्लेंड करते हो, तो रिलेटिवली देन यू नीड दैट मच अमाउंट ऑफ लेस पेट्रोल and that much amount of less crude oil import, and which helps in saving not only on the crude oil import bill but फॉरेक्स रिजर्व्स भी इंडिया के काफी इम्प्रूव हुए हैं पोस्ट द गवर्नमेंट टेकिंग दिस डिसीजन ऑफ रिड्यूसिंग द of increasing the ethanol blending ratio. So forex, as India imports almost 80 to 90% of its crude oil, तो naturally डॉलर पे भी डॉलर रुपी इक्वेशन रेट पे भी उसका असर रहता है. The third thing is that sugarcane, now ethanol is produced from sugarcane, maize, as well as other food grains. So the demand for ethanol increases, ethanol का demand increase होता है, तो naturally इन सब food grains और sugarcane का demand increase होता है, and farmers ultimately benefit. तो farmer income बढ़ जाता है, and उसके वजह से overall rural industry, semi-urban rural industry पे there are multiple multiple impact. So one thing is farmer का income बढ़ता है. Second thing, the ethanol units जो setup होते हैं close to these sugarcane factories and closer to the sugarcane growing regions, तो naturally वहाँ पे industry भी बढ़ती है, and it leads to overall socio-economic development of the ethanol industry. फिर शुगर इंडस्ट्री, इफ ट्रेडिशनली अगर आप देखें तो काफ़ी डिपेंडेंट रहा है ऑन द गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज फॉर शुगर। एंड पहले ये सिर्फ शुगर ही बेचते थे, बट पोस्ट अभी जब से एथेनॉल का ब्लेंडिंग रेशियो बढ़ाया है, तो naturally government has focused on increasing the capacity of ethanol of these sugar factories. And ये ethanol as a product for the sugar industry is highly margin accretive and helps in overall cash flow generation as well. तो नेचुरली ये शुगर इंडस्ट्री को भी बेनिफिट करता है कि दे आर नॉट ओनली डिपेंडेंट ऑन वन प्रोडक्ट दैट इज शुगर, बट उनको अदर सोर्सेज ऑफ इनकम है फ्रॉम एथेनॉल, फ्रॉम द मोलासिस दैट दे सेल फॉर एथेनॉल। तो डिवर्सिफिकेशन ऑफ रेवेन्यू भी हुआ है, and उसके वजह से जैसे हमने देखा है शुगर स्टॉक्स हैव रैलिड big time. So that one reason behind this is also that valuations have improved, since now they are dependent not only on sugar but also they get revenue from ethanol. फिर नेचुरली गवर्नमेंट सपोर्ट है। रोड मैप गवर्नमेंट ने एक सेट किया था 2018 में कि हम एवरी ईयर ट्राई करेंगे टू इंक्रीज दी ब्लेंडिंग रेशियो ऑफ एथेनॉल विद पेट्रोल। तो नाउ दी नियर टर्म एम बाय 2025 है कि 20% एथेनॉल 80% पेट्रोल। तो E20 जो सुना जाता है एंड बोला जाता है, दैट इज नथिंग बट 20% एथेनॉल एंड 80% पेट्रोल। अब काफी सारी कंट्रीज लाइक ब्राजील एंड यूएस में ये रेशियो काफी हाई है। E80 का भी ब्राजील में बोला जाता है, E100 दैट इज 100% एथेनॉल। बट ब्राजील और यूएस के अगर डायनामिक्स देखें तो दे आर क्वाइट डिफरेंट फ्रॉम इंडिया। इंडिया ऑल्सो हैज टू कंट्रोल इन्फ्लेशन ऑन शुगर एंड अदर कमोडिटीज। तो नेचुरली गवर्नमेंट इज गोइंग स्लोली एंड स्टेडीली इंक्रीजिंग द ब्लेंडिंग रेशियो. Again, government support through lower GST rate of just 5%. This was done in 2018. So naturally, again, to keep the cost low, GST rates, lower GST rate is also helping. एंड लास्ट, गवर्नमेंट ने एक नेशनल पॉलिसी ऑन बायोफ्यूल्स सेटअप किया है. So this addresses not just ethanol and ethanol from maize as well as the other sources, but also आगे जाके बायोडीजल आएगा, देन देर इज बायोगैस. सो ऑल दीज बायोफ्यूल्स गोइंग अहेड विल बेनिफिट द इंडियन इंडस्ट्री का कार्बन एमिशन कम करने में, एज वेल एज ऑटोमोटिव एमिशंस कम करने में भी मदद होगा. तो these are the factors that are aiding the ethanol industry. Now moving ahead, so as you can see globally also, focus of each and every country and the government has been to increase the spending on clean energy fuels. Now whether it is solar power or whether it is EVs, also focus has been on increasing the ethanol blending. And naturally the investments behind clean energy fuels has been rising. And this year 2024 में it is expected to reach about $2 trillion, much higher than the fossil fuel investments. अब एथेनॉल का प्रोडक्शन टेक्निक अगर आप देखें तो देर इज 1G 2G एंड 3G इथेनॉल. नाउ दिस इज नथिंग बट प्रोडक्शन प्रोसेस आपका कितना कॉम्प्लेक्स है एंड कितना हाई आउटपुट आपका एथेनॉल का आता है. तो 1G ethanol is what is used currently, what is the technology of which is available. And इसका अगर आप देखें तो feedstock is your normal sugarcane, corn, wheat, barley and other food grain crops which are easily available since India also has quite a large area under cultivation. And इसका process भी काफी simple है, low cost है. एट द सेम टाइम प्रोडक्शन आउटपुट भी इसका रिलेटिवली लोअर आता है. तो गोइंग अहेड नाउ देर इज possibility that 2G ethanol which requires higher technology and which comes with a higher cost. So industry is working on it, still pretty early days, but काफी डेवलपमेंट्स इस सेक्टर में भी हो रहे हैं. And companies like Praj Industries which builds equipment for the sugar industry, ये कंपनी डेवलप कर रहा है नई टेक्नोलॉजी जो अल्टीमेटली बेनिफिट करेगा इन इंक्रीजिंग द प्रोडक्शन ऑफ एथेनॉल. And then there is a 3G ethanol, which uses materials such as algae and other biomass waste as well, and which अभी उसका इंडिया में इतना adoption नहीं है. But going ahead, there could be, if the technology succeeds and the cost is comes lower, there could be production through that process as well. तो इंडिया के नाउ सिंस एथेनॉल इंडिया में मेजरली बनता है शुगर केन से. तो लेट्स फर्स्ट टेक अ लुक एट इंडिया का शुगर केन डायनामिक्स क्या है. तो शुगर केन रिक्वायर्स फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल लॉट ऑफ वाटर, एंड ये अगर प्राइमरली इंडिया में देखें तो उत्तर प्रदेश, एंड उसमें भी वेस्टर्न उत्तर प्रदेश एंड महाराष्ट्र, ये दो स्टेट के अंडर मेजर शुगर केन एरिया है. And apart from that, some states like Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh. So basically 4-5 states में 80 to 90% इंडिया का शुगर केन एरिया है. Now अगर आप देखें तो जब भी रेनफॉल कम रहता है, जैसे लास्ट ईयर इट वाज 2023 ईयर वाज अ लो रेनफॉल ईयर, 2018 वाज अ लो रेनफॉल ईयर. तो उसमें there is impact of the area under sugarcane that is grown. But then that again normalizes during a high rainfall year, जैसे कि अभी 2024 में है. Similarly, sugarcane का yield देखें तो इंडिया में has been stable at around 80 to 90 ton per hectare, and इन दोनों को मिला के अल्टीमेटली आता है द एनुअल शुगर केन प्रोडक्शन. तो दैट हैज बीन राइजिंग. नाउ इसमें फैक्टर्स है, एक तो कि एरिया अंडर शुगर केन दैट हैज इंक्रीज्ड मार्जिनली, बट अगेन गवर्नमेंट सपोर्ट है एथेनॉल और शुगर इंडस्ट्री के पीछे. एक फार्मर को एक फिक्स्ड प्राइस मिलता है फॉर हिज शुगर केन. So naturally, more and more farmers are looking to grow sugarcane, which is a highly profitable crop for the farmers as well. तो यूपी महाराष्ट्र द की मेन ग्रोइंग रीजन्स, एज वेल एज अदर स्टेट्स में भी हमने देखा है जहाँ पे भी पानी का अवेलेबिलिटी है, इरिगेशन फैसिलिटीज है, तो फार्मर्स आर लुकिंग टू ग्रो sugarcane, and which has led to increase in the sugarcane production over the last 5 to 6 years, despite low rainfall, despite other challenges as well. अब शुगर का एक देख लेते हैं डायनामिक्स. तो अगर आप देखेंगे तो शुगर प्रोडक्शन इन इंडिया हैज बीन ऑन द हायर साइड कंपेयर टू कंजम्पशन, एंड इसके वजह से देयर इज ऑलवेज अ सरप्लस ऑफ शुगर. अभी ये सरप्लस शुगर पहले एक्सपोर्ट होता था. Till 2022 there was a high export figure, but post that 23 में कम हुआ, and 24 में इस साल तो इंडिया ने शुगर एक्सपोर्ट बैन किया है, एज लास्ट ईयर प्राइसेस काफी हाई चले गए थे. तो नेचुरली देयर इज ऑलवेज अ सरप्लस ऑफ शुगर, एंड दिस is getting diverted to produce ethanol. So overall, in terms of demand supply, unlike many other sectors, India has surplus sugar, and which can be exported as well as diverted to ethanol. अब इस साल there is a possibility that once ये नया crop जो अभी आएगा sugar cane का, उसके बाद अगर sugar production increase होता है, so there could be a possibility that government may look to restart the exports of sugar as well. So that could again be another trigger, a positive trigger in the near to medium term. As अगर global sugar prices आप देखें तो काफी high है इस समय. ब्राजील में there has been forest fires and drought, तो ब्राजील का sugar production काफी impacted है. थाईलैंड में again there was impact of typhoon, तो अगेन थाईलैंड में भी थोड़ा इम्पैक्ट हुआ है शुगर प्रोडक्शन. तो नेट इंडिया कैन बी अ बेनिफिशियरी ऑफ द शुगर एक्सपोर्ट्स, एक्सपोर्ट बैन इज लिफ्टेड. नाउ अगर आप देखें तो ब्राजील, इंडिया एंड थाईलैंड आर द की शुगर प्रोड्यूसिंग रीजन्स, and if two countries are in trouble, then naturally if India's production is better, it could be beneficial for the sugar industry. अब चलते हैं प्रोडक्शन प्रोसेस की हो. तो बेसिकली शुगर केन इज the juice is extracted from the sugarcane at the start of the sugar factory, and then the companies have two choices. One is they can use it to produce sugar by treating the juice and then undergoing multiple processes, or it can divert that sugarcane juice to ferment ethanol. Now, this is where last year the government said that you cannot divert this juice to produce ethanol, as sugar was in short supply last year. The prices were on the higher side, but now this year, that is, I think in the last month, the government has again allowed this diversion of sugarcane juice to ethanol, and that is overall beneficial for the ethanol industry as well. Similarly, if you can see, post extraction of sugar from the sugarcane juice, the molasses that is left, that is the leftover of the sugarcane, that again can be fermented into ethanol. So ethanol basically is produced from two sources. One is the pure sugarcane juice, as well as from the molasses. So this is basically the production process of sugar as well as ethanol.
Ethanol
Ethanol
can
can
also
also be produced from molasses, as I said. So this is the process for that, where again it is fermented and distilled, and we get the ethanol from the molasses. And similarly from grain. Now, when we talk about grain, it is basically majorly maize. तो मकाई से बनता है ethanol, as well as from rice. So rice में there is a government rule that says that they basically sell the rice, excess rice that they have in the Food Corporation of India godowns, and उसमें से then the sugar and ethanol companies use it to produce ethanol. But from grain based ethanol is closely linked to food inflation. अगर food inflation high है, अगर maize और rice का production किसी भी साल में कम है, तो गवर्नमेंट उसको अलाउ नहीं करता है टू प्रोड्यूस एथेनॉल दैट बेसिकली हैज टू बी यूज फॉर फूड पर्पस ओनली. तो ग्रेन बेस्ड एथेनॉल अगेन एक रिस्क रहता है दैट सम ईयर देयर कुड बी जीरो टू वेरी लो प्रोडक्शन ऑफ एथेनॉल फ्रॉम ग्रेन. So basically, these are the sources of ethanol, and as we'll see ahead, each source gives different quantity of ethanol per ton of the input. So we'll go ahead. Coming to the key terms that are used in the sugar and ethanol industry. So एक होता है ethanol supply year. Now this starts every year in December, and ये move करता है up to November. So December to November is the ethanol supply year. Sugar supply year starts in October and goes up to September the next year, as sugarcane का harvest होता है September में, October में, and the crushing season starts, and we have the sugar supply year which runs from October to September. Now FRP मतलब fair and remunerative price. अब इसमें गवर्नमेंट ऑलवेज सेट्स दी प्राइस एट विच शुगर कैन मिल्स को ये भाव फार्मर्स को देना ही देना है. इट इज अ लीगल मैंडेट, एंड वेयर government fixes the price every year. Now, higher the price, more beneficial it is for the farmers, but at the same time, then it becomes negative for companies. So it is always a balance between keeping the interests of farmers as well as the sugar industry in mind. And similarly, state advised price or SAP. Now, UP government announces this in addition to the FRP. So, central government जो FRP set करता है, उसके above UP government fixes the state advised price, जो UP based farmers को मिलता है from the sugar mills largely in the western UP region. And then there is a minimum selling price. So government एक floor लगाता है for sugar prices, that prices should not fall below this level in order to overall control the health of the sugar industry. तो ये सब key terms है sugar industry में which you would be hearing in this presentation, as well as from the management of sugar industries going ahead. Now, this is the process for blending ethanol with petrol. So, oil marketing companies HP, BP, IOC, ये basically ethanol खरीदती है from the sugarcane, from the sugar industry, from the ethanol producers through a tender route. and then this ethanol is supplied to the refineries जहाँ पे भी ये तीन IOC, BP और HP की refineries होती है, and then इस जगह पे basically they blend it with petrol. So based on the ratio 10%, 15%, 20%, जैसे 2025 तक बोला है, तो accordingly the ethanol is blended with petrol. So it is always a tender process. तो ऑयल मार्केटिंग कंपनीज हर साल अगस्त सितंबर में टेंडर फ्लोट करती है फॉर द नेक्स्ट एथेनॉल सप्लाई ईयर, एंड देन शुगर कंपनीज एंड एथेनॉल प्रोड्यूसर्स दे कोट द प्राइस अकॉर्डिंगली. क्वांटिटी हर क्वार्टर का सेट होता है, हर लोकेशन का सेट होता है. Then there is, as per the tender process, bank guarantees are issued, and then the procurement process starts. Also, there are penalties for provision for penalties. तो अगर कोई भी एथेनॉल प्रोड्यूसर कॉन्ट्रैक्टेड क्वांटिटी से अगर कम सप्लाई करता है, तो there is always a penalty process which the oil marketing companies can use. So basically, it is a tender-driven process. Also, now the central government is encouraging oil marketing companies to launch longer-term contracts. तो ये शुगर एंड एथेनॉल इंडस्ट्री को एक लॉन्ग टर्म सप्लाई का विजिबिलिटी देगा, विच अगेन विल बी बेनिफिशियल फॉर द इंडस्ट्री. नाउ एथेनॉल यील्ड, जैसे हमने देखा कि बेसिकली एथेनॉल प्रोड्यूस होता है शुगर केन सिरप एज वेल एज फ्रॉम द मोलासिस. तो एवरी टन ऑफ शुगर केन सिरप गिव्स 290 liters ऑफ एथेनॉल ऑन एवरेज. तो ये सबसे प्योरेस्ट सोर्स है इन टर्म्स ऑफ द शुगर केन रूट. एंड बी हैवी मोलासिस ऑल्सो गिव्स अबाउट 300 liters. सी हैवी मोलासिस है कि आप बी हैवी मोलासिस को एक बार यूज करके उसको वापस आप क्रश कर रहे हो, तो दैट नेचुरली गिव्स लोअर क्वांटिटी ऑफ एथेनॉल. तो एज यू कैन सी 255 liters वर्सेस 300 लीटर जो बी हैवी मोलासिस देता है. And if you see damaged food grains and the surplus rice as well as corn, उनका yield ज़्यादा है, तो every ton of that food grain gives higher amount of ethanol. But again, इस रूट से, that is a food grain route से, there are multiple restrictions, government के restrictions रहते हैं in terms of the quantity that you can use. तो every year they may not give that much amount of food grain. And as far as food grains are concerned, the rate also varies from state to state depending on that state's policy and that state ka consumption. So these are this is the yield of ethanol from different food stocks. हर फीड स्टॉक का एक एमएसपी भी रहता है. तो नेचुरली फार्मर्स, द गवर्नमेंट फिक्सेस द एमएसपी एवरी ईयर फॉर खरीफ एंड rabi season as well, that the price should not fall below this level when you pay to farmers. And that if you see sugarcane ka FRP ranges from in FY19 it was 275 rupees per क्विंटल, जो कि पिछले साल 315 rupees per क्विंटल है. तो नेचुरली गवर्नमेंट इज ऑल्सो एनकरेजिंग शुगर केन कल्टिवेशन. यूपी में एडिशनल सपोर्ट मिलता है, तो यूपी में दी एसएपी इज 370 rupees पर क्विंटल. एंड मेज पे भी देयर इज क्वाइट अ गुड अमाउंट ऑफ एमएसपी दैट द गवर्नमेंट promises. So this is the procurement rate at which the companies have to procure this or a price above this if the demand that year is pretty good. So this comes out to be the procurement cost of the different feedstock. Now this gives the procurement prices of ethanol. That is the price at which the oil marketing companies buy ethanol from ethanol and sugar companies. So last year it was 66 rupees per liter for sugarcane juice, syrup and sugar, that is ethanol produced from these sources. And as you can see, maize here also maize has a higher price and a higher margin. Similarly, for damaged food grains, the rate is similar to the sugarcane prices. So the rate keeps on increasing every year as the demand increases, the companies bid, and naturally the procurement prices are also going up, which again is beneficial for the overall overall margin profile of the ethanol companies. अब ग्लोबली एक नजर डालते हैं कि विच आर द मेजर एथेनॉल प्रोड्यूसर्स. तो यूएस बाय फार इज द लार्जेस्ट शेयर, ऑलमोस्ट हाफ ऑफ द एथेनॉल प्रोडक्शन कम्स आउट फ्रॉम देयर. तो 53% इज यूएस एंड ब्राजील इज 28%. अब इन दो कंट्रीज को अगर देखें तो दे ऑल्सो हैव लार्ज एग्रीकल्चर एरिया लाइक इंडिया. इनके मेन क्रॉप्स है मेज इन यूएस एंड शुगर केन इन ब्राजील. So naturally, they have a natural feedstock and similar to India. So both these factors are pretty much similar to India. India का शेयर अभी कम है, but it is again increasing with the focus of the government on ethanol blending. And again, India में you have to control food inflation as well. तो जब भी rainfall कम होता है, तो naturally there is a tendency to shift more towards food and food grains and less towards ethanol. So again, these three countries basically are leading the ethanol play, and as far as the blending with petrol is concerned. So this gives the historical procurement that the oil marketing companies HP, BP और IOC ने जो annually खरीदा है from the ethanol industry. Now जैसे blending ratio बढ़ रहा है, तो this was about 5% in 2019-20. हर साल ये रेशियो इंक्रीज हुआ है. नाउ करंटली अभी इट स्टैंड्स एट अबाउट 15%. एंड नेचुरली एथेनॉल का प्रोक्योरमेंट फ्रॉम द इंडस्ट्री हैज इंक्रीज एट अ केगर ऑफ 42%. एंड आगे जाके भी इट इज एक्सपेक्टेड दैट 21% ग्रोथ कुड बी सीन विद द 20% रेशियो जो हमने सेट किया है फॉर 2025. तो as the blending ratio increases, as more petrol is consumed, naturally the demand for ethanol is going to go higher. And ethanol, besides used as a fuel, that is with petrol, also has other uses. So one thing is, again, it is used as a used in pharma and chemicals as a raw material. जैसे इंडिया में फार्मा एंड केमिकल इंडस्ट्री की कैपेसिटी बढ़ रही है, तो नेचुरली more raw material will be required. So ethanol again is used in this industry. Again, it is used in the liquor industry. So liquor industry uses the extra neutral ethanol. So as the consumption in the other industries also increases, you are going to see higher demand for ethanol. So based on the demand supply dynamics, so if you see at the current capacity, and we are assuming 80% capacity utilization, because कोई भी industry का utilization to consistently operate at 100% is quite difficult. So if you see, there is still a gap compared to the demand that would be required by 2025. And companies are addressing this by adding capacities. But overall, if you see demand supply dynamics, it is still higher for the demand, and ये help करेगा to keep the realizations higher comparatively for the ethanol industry. So net, if you see ethanol as well as the realization as well as a margin could be in for a higher rate of growth over the next few years if this current demand supply dynamics continue. So ये main companies है. This is ranked based on the FY24 capacities. This is basically in kiloliters per day. And basically True Alt Bioenergy, it is still a unlisted player but has filed its DRHP. It has a 1400 KLPD capacity currently, and it is targeting capacity of 2700 KLPD by FY27. So basically doubling over the next 3 years. Then Sri Renuka Sugars and Balrampur Chini also have a very relatively higher capacity. Triveni Engineering is another name from the Western UP belt, which also has a good amount of capacity, and where it is expanding again in the next few years. Dalmia Bharat Sugar as well as Bajaj Hindustan Sugar. So as companies realize that ethanol, the government support is there for the ethanol industry, and government is focusing on increasing the blending ratio, companies are increasing their capacity to cater to this increasing demand. तो ये एक केस स्टडी है ऑन बलरामपुर चीनी, where you can see that the distillery segment is highly profitable and also supports the overall margin. तो जैसे एथेनॉल का शेयर बढ़ रहा है इन दी ओवरऑल रेवेन्यू मिक्स ऑफ बलरामपुर चीनी, the EBIT margins are also very supportive. तो unlike sugar जो काफी volatile रहता है and जिसका margin 7 to 8% at best रहता है, distillery segment sees very high margins, so about 30 to 38 to 40%, and which has helped in overall improving the return ratio अगर आप देखें कंपनी का, या इवन कैश फ्लो सिचुएशन अगर आप देखें कंपनी का. So naturally, ethanol is a profitable business for the sugar mills, and each and every sugar company in the last few years has expanded its ethanol capacity. Also, there are some players who are purely based on the ethanol. They don't produce much sugar. So even those names can be looked at. So, from the stock focus point of view, these are the names which capacity wise and which on a relative valuation basis and the growth prospects look attractive. So, Balrampur Chini with a large amount of capacity and it being a pure integrated sugar and ethanol manufacturer is an attractive play. The company एक polylactic acid capacity भी सेटअप कर रहा है, जो कि एक अलग डिवर्सिफिकेशन रहेगा, उसका एप्लीकेशन रहेगा इन द फार्मा एंड केमिकल इंडस्ट्री, तो दैट अगेन विल बी अ डिफरेंट रेवेन्यू स्ट्रीम. देन त्रिवेणी इंजीनियरिंग आल्सो हैज a pretty good business model and a capacity. Gulshan Polyols, India Glycols, BCL Industries, ये basically pure ethanol plays है, and इसमें there are capacities other than sugar also, so they utilize maize and the food grain as well. And EID Parry from the southern region, from the Andhra region, again a south-based player from the Murugappa group, which also has a pretty decent sugar and ethanol capacity, as well as it is the holding company of Coromandel International as well, which is the fertilizer manufacturer. So, based on the overall scheme of things, the sugar and ethanol industry going forward, the growth prospects look very bright. गवर्नमेंट का सपोर्ट है, डिमांड ट्रेंड है कंसिस्टेंट, with blending ratio increasing. आगे जाके there are also पॉसिबिलिटी कि डीजल में भी एथेनॉल का ब्लेंडिंग शुरू होगा, तो नेचुरली दे विल स्टार्ट विद 5%. अभी जो बात चल रहा है दे मे इंक्रीज इट टू 10%. डीजल एक पेट्रोल से भी ज़्यादा पोल्यूटिंग फ्यूल है, विच इज़ रिक्वायर्ड मेनली इन हैवी इंडस्ट्रीज. So naturally, as more and more availability of biofuels opens up, so government is also looking at the demand side as well, कि कहाँ पे इसको utilize कर सकते हैं. So these are the triggers behind which the industry is likely to sustain. एक key risk factors जो है, तो one thing is that there is a frequent regulatory intervention. तो जैसे last year हमने देखा कि गवर्नमेंट फ्रीक्वेंटली इंटरवीन कर रहा था टू कंट्रोल द प्राइस ऑफ शुगर, तो दे स्टॉप्ड डाइवर्जन ऑफ शुगर केन जूस फॉर एथेनॉल प्रोडक्शन. Then they again put a lid on the molasses, how much molasses can be used for the ethanol production. Maize and food grain का diversion भी उन्होंने बंद कर दिया था. But now since last 2-3 months, as inflation has reduced, तो naturally इन सब feedstock को भी फिर से allow किया है to be used. Then there is also sugar का export का ban डाला गवर्नमेंट ने. तो जैसे दाम बढ़ गए इंडिया में शुगर के, तो गवर्नमेंट लास्ट ईयर हैड टू पुट एक्सपोर्ट बैन, which again could be lifted if prices remain under control. Then there is always a threat of weather patterns not being good. तो जैसे लास्ट ईयर एक लो रेनफॉल ईयर था, लेकिन इस साल इट वाज प्रिटी डिसेंट. तो हर साल वेदर पैटर्न्स चेंज होते हैं, रेनफॉल विद इन रीजन्स. अब कभी यूपी में बारिश ज़्यादा है तो महाराष्ट्र में कम रहती है, तो नेचुरली ये सब डायनामिक्स भी इम्पैक्ट करता है। एंड शुगर इंडस्ट्री इज अ वेरी लोकलाइज्ड इंडस्ट्री, तो अगर आपका प्लांट यूपी में है तो बेसिकली इट इज कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड इन दोज रीजन्स, whereas the other companies must be having it in Maharashtra or Andhra. So basically, regional specific weather factors also play a important role, and which impacts the profitability अगर वो साल sugarcane का production कम है. Again, there is the increase in the share of alternate fuel sources. तो CNG vehicles अब बढ़ रहे हैं, तो where there again ethanol is not required as petrol is not used. Electric vehicles के side पे भी there is movement, although it will take time. So passenger vehicles and commercial vehicles will take a longer time to transition. अगेन मेथनॉल एंड हाइड्रोजन जो ट्रक्स में यूज होने का बात हो रहा है, तो अगेन देयर कुड बी एन इम्पैक्ट कि पेट्रोल डीजल ना यूज हो, तो अगेन एथेनॉल ब्लेंडिंग विल नॉट बी रिक्वायर्ड ओवर हियर. So these are the key risk factors that one has to keep in mind while taking bets on the sugar companies. And that's it from my side. We'll move on to the Q&A. Hope you like the presentation. Thank you.
Just a minute, Sumit. I would like to add a few more points over here. And thanks for a very nice presentation. So, one important factor event which can play out over the next 15 to 20 days is the likely change in MSP of sugar and ethanol prices. तो ये एक बहुत बड़ा इवेंट हो सकता है पूरे इथेनॉल और शुगर इंडस्ट्री के लिए, जो कि पॉजिटिव साइड में देखा जाएगा. तो इंडस्ट्री की डिमांड है कि जो एमएसपी शुगर की आज के डेट में 31 रुपए है, 31 रुपीज है पर केजी, उसे बढ़ा करके 38 या 39 रुपीज किया जाए. तो अगर ऐसा कुछ स्टेप गवर्नमेंट लेती है तो डेफिनेटली पॉजिटिव रहेगा शुगर सभी शुगर प्लेयर्स के लिए. एंड मुझे लगता है कि इसमें डेफिनेटली कुछ ना कुछ बढ़ोतरी होकर हमें देखने मिलेगा. द रीजन बीइंग दैट if I remember 31 as the MSP is the holding on since last 3 years, और पिछले 3 साल में डेफिनेटली इन्फ्लेशन तो बढ़ा ही है, बट चीनी के दाम गवर्नमेंट ने एमएसपी के तौर पर बढ़ाया नहीं है. और एक चीज हमें ध्यान रखना होगा कि विद इलेक्शन अहेड ऑफ अस इन द महाराष्ट्र, और महाराष्ट्र इज द सेकंड लार्जेस्ट शुगर प्रोड्यूसर इन द कंट्री, तो इलेक्शन से पहले महाराष्ट्र में कहीं ना कहीं फार्मर्स को खुश करने के लिए शायद एक इनडायरेक्टली एक बेनिफिट भी दिया जा सकता है, जहां एमएसपी के थ्रू शुगर के दाम थोड़े से बढ़ाए जाए. और एट द सेम टाइम इथेनॉल के दाम भी अगर गवर्नमेंट बढ़ाती है थ्रू वेरियस फीडस्टॉक, तो सभी इथेनॉल प्लेयर वेदर इट इज शुगर और नॉन शुगर बेस्ड प्लेयर, सभी के लिए एक पॉजिटिव मूव रहेगा. और इसमें जो बड़े प्लेयर्स हैं, जिस तरह से सुमित ने डिस्कस किया है कि जो बड़ी कंपनीज हैं जिनकी कैपेसिटी बहुत ज्यादा है, जिनके पास ऑलरेडी ऑयल मार्केटिंग कंपनीज के थ्रू कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है, उनको कहीं ना कहीं एक लंबी अवधि में बेनिफिट हम आते हुए देखेंगे. एक इम्पॉर्टेंट प्लेयर यहाँ मिस हो गया हम लोगों से, वो प्राज इंडस्ट्री. तो डेफिनेटली इथेनॉल की जिस तरह से डिमांड बढ़ेगी तो ऑब्वियसली इथेनॉल की जो कैपेसिटी है, प्रोडक्शन कैपेसिटी सॉरी, उसमें हम इंक्रीमेंट होते हुए देखेंगे, और उसका सीधा सीधा बेनिफिशियरी प्राज इंडस्ट्रीज रहेगा. हमने हालांकि देखा है कि एक मल्टीबैगर रिटर्न प्राज ने ऑलरेडी डिलीवर किया है. स्टॉक 200 रुपए से 800 रुपए ऑलरेडी हुआ है, और हमने काफी बार हमारे दूसरे अलग अलग प्रोडक्ट में रिकमेंड भी किया है प्राज को. और हमें लगता है कि अल्टीमेटली अगर यहाँ से इथेनॉल की डिमांड और बढ़ती है तो आगे चल के एक प्राज भी एक बहुत बड़ा बेनिफिशियरी रह सकता है. बट एक चीज ध्यान रखना होगा कि शुगर और इथेनॉल एज अ सेक्टर अल्टीमेटली एक गवर्नमेंट रेगुलेटेड सेक्टर है. any government can anytime intervene to control the inflation, whether it is on sugar side, whether it is on food grain side. और रिसेंटली हमने पिछले 6 से 12 महीने में इसका इम्पैक्ट भी देखा था, जहां गवर्नमेंट ने डायरेक्ट शुगर केन जूस से इथेनॉल बनाने पर पाबंदी लगाई थी इलेक्शन से पहले, और इलेक्शन के बाद फिर ये पाबंदी हटा दी अब नए शुगर ईयर से. तो थोड़ा सा गवर्नमेंट रेगुलेटेड सेक्टर है, वोलेटिलिटी रहेगी. तो जो एसेट एलोकेशन है शुगर और इथेनॉल स्टॉक में, उसे प्रॉपर करना होगा. ऐसा नहीं है कि आपने आपके पोर्टफोलियो का बहुत बड़ा चंक शुगर और इथेनॉल कंपनी में लगा दिया और ड्यू टू एनी एडवर्स गवर्नमेंट रेगुलेटरी इम्पैक्ट उसका एक बहुत बड़ा इम्पैक्ट आपके पोर्टफोलियो पर आ सकता है. एंड एट द सेम टाइम वी कैन सी सिग्निफिकेंट डाउनटर्न इन द ओवरऑल पोर्टफोलियो. तो थोड़ा सा रिस्क रिवॉर्ड को ध्यान में रखते हुए प्रॉपर एसेट एलोकेशन के थ्रू ही ये सेक्टर में पार्टिसिपेट करना है. नाउ I would like to open the floor for Q&A and we will try to address each and every question one by one. मेरी एक ही रिक्वेस्ट है आप सब लोगों से कि काइंडली रिस्ट्रिक्ट योर क्वेश्चन टू शुगर एंड इथेनॉल सेक्टर, so that we can have a fruitful conversation and on this sector rather than keeping it open-ended and discussing any stock from other sectors also. Yeah. So first, I mean, so there is an compliment from Chandramouli Batulaji. Thanks for your valuable information. Thank you, Chandraji. We keep on sharing all such kind of information to best of our effort, so that all our investor, all our viewers, all our client should benefit out of that, and ultimately any investment decision backed by research is something that will ensure that we are in a profitable trade, we are investing in a good company. Thanks for your compliment, and that gives us a lot of encouragement going forward. So next question is from Shriram. Shriramji asking new IPO, IFCON, Hyundai, please. So Shriramji, we cover all the IPO ahead of the IPO date. So I would request you to stay tuned to our Telegram channel, SBI Securities website. So where we are posting all our views on IPO. तो IPO आने दीजिए, अब तक एनालिस्ट मीट हुई नहीं है एफकॉन और Hyundai की. डेफिनेटली हम हमारा व्यू शेयर करेंगे दोनों कंपनीज को लेकर के जब भी IPO लॉन्च होगा. So next question is from Shriram Dangre, Tata Chemical. So again, since this question has already been asked, I will try to cover this, but request everyone to restrict your queries to sugar and ethanol sector. Tata Chemical, at a current juncture, we are neutral on the company. The reason being that the key commodities, the key finished good which a company is manufacturing chemical, that is soda ash, that is अंडर प्राइसिंग प्रेशर. द रीजन बीइंग दैट चाइना का जो डंपिंग है काफी ज्यादा है, और इसी के चलते टाटा केमिकल पर हमारा व्यू न्यूट्रल है. ज्यादा नीचे भी नहीं जाएगा, ज्यादा ऊपर नहीं जाएगा, फ्लैटिश रहने की उम्मीद है टाटा केमिकल आगे जाकर के. So there is a comment from Srinivaslu Lankaji for Sumit, good knowledge. Yeah, thanks Srinivaji. Sumit, would you like to comment on this?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. We always keep on evaluating sectors and companies where we feel knowledge-wise also we can provide knowledge to all the investors. So yeah, thank you for your comment.
Yeah, so next question is from Parth. I have an automotive Excel share 50 at rupees 2685, Moil at 585, and Campus at 550. Now what to do? I think you can stay remain invested in all the three companies. All the three companies are doing well. Only Campus is one company within the footwear sector that continue to struggle. Entire footwear sector is in not going through a good phase as of now. Sabhi companies, whether it is Bata, whether it is Relaxo, Campus, everyone is facing a demand pressure. But again, Campus is a market leader in a athleisure segment, and sneaker में काफी बड़ी कंपनी है. थोड़ा सा लंबा होराइजन रखना होगा. मॉइल में हमने देखा है कि ऑफ लेट रिजल्ट के बाद एक अच्छा खासा करेक्शन आया, और उसका एक कारण ये था कि जिस तरह से चाइना में स्लोडाउन की न्यूज इमर्ज हुई, उसके चलते हमने देखा कि सभी मेटल्स और माइनिंग कंपनीज में कमोडिटी प्राइसेस में करेक्शन आया, और इसी के चलते मेटल और माइनिंग स्टॉक्स में भी करेक्शन आया. बट पिछले एक सप्ताह से कहीं ना कहीं चाइना ने अपनी इकोनॉमी को रिवाइव करने के लिए काफी सारे स्टेप लिए हैं, और इसी के चलते कमोडिटी के प्राइसेस में भी अच्छा खासा उछाल हमने देखा है. वी हैव सीन अ गुड bounce back in commodity prices, and we continue to remain bullish on Moil as a play on manganese as a sector. Automotive Excel again a play on automobile sector, auto ancillary play. So we continue to remain bullish on Automotive Excel. Again, that's the play on commercial vehicle and tractor. So kindly stay remain invested. Only one caveat is that the investment horizon has to be slightly longer. So at least keep all these three companies in the portfolio for next 6 to 12 months. Next question is from John De Silva. Buy Zentech. Yes, John, we have a buy call on Zentech, and we have been recommending this company since last 1.5 to 2 years. and we continue to remain bullish on this company. And you can keep on tracking our report, all our reports on Zentech on our website, on Telegram channel, as well as through your investment advisor. Shreya is asking question on any particular target for sugar making company. Again, Shreya, there is no, so we have not assigned any price target for any sugar making company at the current juncture. We are waiting for the one of the important event to pan out over the next few days, wherein government may increase the MSP on sugar as well as increase the procurement price for ethanol. So slightly we need to be nimble footed as far as the sugar as well as ethanol sector is concerned. Any adverse news can lead to a significant correction also, and at the same time any positive news can lead to a exponential rise in stock prices. The only way to protect ourselves from this volatile sector is to stick to a debt-free companies where balance sheet are robust, companies which are large companies. So Sumit has already discussed companies from sugar as well as non-sugar sector. Companies like Balrampur, Gulshan Polyol, EID Perry. So these are the few companies which we like within the sugar sector. Again, I am again repeating the same point. Kindly keep in mind the asset allocation on sugar and ethanol as a sector. It's still it is a cyclical sector and there is a lot of volatility. So don't kindly take care that sugar and ethanol as a sector is maximum 8 to 10% of your portfolio and not more than that. So for Balrampur Chini, again, we continue to remain bullish on Balrampur Chini. They have recently diversified into a chemical as a sector, and we believe that even that segment has got a significant potential to grow. So kindly stay remain invested. I think on a if I take a long-term average of a 3 to 5 year, I think average return potential of Balrampur Chini can be in the range of 15 to 18%. But again, it will average out. कुछ साल में बलरामपुर चीनी रिटर्न नहीं देगा, कुछ जहाँ फेवरेबल साइकिल रहेगा, गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसी फेवरेबल रहेगी, वहाँ हम देखेंगे कि बलरामपुर चीनी से कोई साल में बहुत अच्छा रिटर्न मिलेगा. तो एवरेज में 15 से 16, 17, 18% की रिटर्न एक्सपेक्टेशन ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ नेक्स्ट 3 to 5 years is a fair expectation in a बलरामपुर चीनी. Yeah, I will request Sumit to address this question.
Yeah, so as I explained during the entire presentation, ethanol will stay in focus. Previously, there was only the sugar sector which these companies used to cater to. Now, ethanol, as we saw with Balrampur Chini's case study, where the mix of ethanol is increasing. So naturally, it is margin positive. It helps improve the margins for the overall company and also helps improve the return ratios. So naturally, an additional source of revenue, but again, it is linked to the government procurement price as well as the government regulations. And depending on each year will be different for this industry, where if the production is good, sugarcane production is good, rainfall is good, then you will have higher production and more ethanol will be produced and supplied to the oil companies. But if the year is bad, so there could be restrictions and it could impact the overall utilization for these companies. So, as sir said, case to case, company to company specific view has to be taken and should not be become a large part of your overall portfolio.
Yeah, so we are seeing a lot of requests on various webinar topics. So one is on chemical sector by John. Then there is one request on cap goods and chemical again from somebody else. So yeah, your suggestions are well noted, and we will definitely keep in mind next time. We will try to cover chemical as well as cap goods as a sector, and we will get back to you. Kindly keep your notification on for YouTube channel of SBI Securities. So whenever we release our next webinar schedule, definitely you are kept informed, and you can join that respective webinar. So happy to see a lot of fan following for our analyst Rajesh, and I think definitely we will request Rajesh to take our next webinar on chemical as well as cap goods sector, and Rajesh will definitely come and address you. So thank you for your kind comments and fan following. So next question is from Anilji. Dwarikesh Sugar share target. I have 400 share since last 2 year at the rate of 99 per share. Just a minute, hold on. So on Dwarikesh Sugar, I was just going through the financials of the company, and what I saw is that there has been a consistent decline in profitability since last 2 year, and that is the reason we have seen correction in the stock price of Dwarikesh Sugar. I would request you to stay remain invested, because any positive comment or any step by government of India on MSP of sugar or increase in ethanol sourcing price can be positive for Dwarikesh as well as other sugar company. तो थोड़ा समय you can stay remain invested, since anyway you are holding the stock since last 2 year. So I will request you to kindly to stay remain invested at least for one more month, and let's see any positive step from the government can lead to a spurt in the stock price of Dwarikesh Sugar. Now next question. So the next question is from Hawkeye Trader. Two questions. When do you think ethanol stocks are expected to pick up short term and long term? And the second question, do you have any technical analysis on this stock? So again, ethanol is a long term story. We have to keep in mind that ultimately this is a sector which is driven by the government regulation and policies, and ultimately it is a government which is the price maker in this. It is a government which decides the blending ratio. Government is the only a party which decides the procurement rate, and government can anytime change the regulation pertaining to the ethanol sourcing. So I think the sector is definitely driven by the tailwind by government. So, and at the same time, we have to keep in mind that earlier sugar and as a sector used to be very volatile sector, and then government came in 3 years back. They have implemented MSP in the sugar, that has led to the stability in profit and loss account for all the sugar companies. And ultimately it is the government which takes the call whether to support the sector or not. So I think if somebody want to stay remain invested in ethanol as a sector, one has to take a minimum view of 2 to 3 years, and one has to keep in mind that already this story is discounted also to some extent. So we have already seen many stocks rallying as they delivered a fantastic return during the last 2 3 years on the back of this government supportive policy on ethanol front. But definitely there is a humongous scope in long term to increase the blending ratio from 15% to 20%. Then based on improvement in flex fuel engine, again this ratio can go up to 25-30%. But ultimately the engines which support this flex fuel about 20% ratio should be produced by automobile companies, and that will lead to the further spurt in demand for ethanol. As Sumit has already discussed, that ethanol can be blended with diesel and aviation turbine fuel. So again, that can be one of the trigger for increase in demand and production for ethanol. So one need to keep a slightly longer horizon if somebody want to ride this story on ethanol. And again, that can be played through sugar as well as non-sugar companies. So non-sugar companies are predominantly relying on grains like rice, maize, and any other feedstock. So there we have already recommended many players like Gulshan Polyol, BCL Industry. At the same time, we are day in day out we are seeing many players setting up a facility of ethanol manufacturing, and that need to be tracked on a day-to-day basis. Coming to technical analysis, so sorry to say right now in this webinar we are not sharing any technical view on this stock. Maybe next time we will try to address your queries on technical analysis for any company. Still, in case you want to know the technical view on few of the companies, you can reach out to us through your investment advisor, dealer advisor, and or you can get in touch through our customer care department also. So the next question is from Dilip ji. Please tell about Ola Electric. Again, Dilip ji, non-related question, but still I will try to address your query. Ola Electric again is the company which is currently a loss-making company. However, we have seen an improvement in performance during the first quarter result. One has to keep in mind the next two big trigger for Ola Electrics are basically launch of a motorbike, which is likely in the month of Jan 25, and at the same time integration of battery, its own battery with within this his vehicle. So that will lead to the expansion in margin. And of late we have seen announcement from Ola Electric wherein they are trying to move from direct to consumer model and shift to a channel based franchisee model. So we have already seen a promoter of the company announcing that they will open a 1600 new stores through channel partner before Diwali. So that is another important point. So it's ultimately the path to profitability is something which is very important in Ola Electric, and one has to keep in mind that valuations are very expensive as far as Ola Electric is concerned. In fact, at current juncture, what we feel is that valuations of TVS Motor and Hero Motocorp are much cheaper compared to Ola Electric. So if you are trying to make money through Ola Electric, kindly need to have patience. We need to track the company quarter by quarter in terms of profit growth and path to profitability. On month basis, you need to track whether Ola Electric is gaining market share or losing market share compared to other players like Hero, TVS, Ather, and so on and so forth. So it's a turnaround story, and kindly need to have patience in a medium to long term investment horizon. What would be the price target of Praj Industries for medium term? That's the question from Subhash Deshpande ji. I think the fair value of Praj is close to 900-950 rupees at a current juncture. We have already seen a significant rally in the Praj during the last 2 years. So I would recommend that if somebody is trying to bet money on Praj, better to follow buy on deep strategy. Anyway, markets are looking slightly overbought at a current juncture. So any correction ahead of Diwali can be a good opportunity to add Praj in the medium to long term portfolio. Again, there is a question from Ganesh Kaushik. Trend. Again, Ganeshji, although a fabulous company Trend growing at an exorbitant rate led by Zudio as a format, but the valuations are something which are very expensive, and at SBI Securities, we are not comfortable recommending any companies which are trading above 50 P, 100 P, and hence, because what happens in such companies, even one bad quarter can lead to a significant correction in the stock prices. So the company has been doing very well, but again, in terms of stock price, we are not comfortable at a current juncture. In case you are holding the stock, better to book at least partial profit. And in case you are planning to buy a Trend at a current juncture, I would recommend that there lies more value in Arvind Fashion and ABFRL at a current juncture as compared to Trend. Moving on to next question from Mr. S.K. Pandey. Please discuss about Gulshan Polyol. Again, we are bullish on Gulshan Polyol, and we have recommended this stock also in our pick of the day. So they are expanding capacity by leaps and bounds over the next 6 to 12 months. And the company will be one of the key beneficiary of increase in ethanol procurement. So kindly stay remain invested in Gulshan Polyol. The next question is from Yaduvanshi ji. Sir, I have Mawana sugar at 124, quantity 100. What is the future? Just a minute. Yeah, so basically, if you see, I was just looking at the numbers of Mawana sugar, and I think the company still predominantly operate in a sugar as a sector, and distillery and power as a sector. The contribution is very minuscule in this company. So what I would recommend is that better to shift to other company where there is an significant ethanol capacity, because ultimately the earnings or a derating is purely driven by ethanol as a segment. And I would recommend that anyway the current market price is close to your buying price 124, 125 rupees. So better to keep stop loss or exit whenever the stock rises from here and shift to other better companies like Balrampur or EID Barry. So there is a recommendation that consumption sector should also be covered. Yes, definitely suggestion noted. So basically there is a demand for chemicals, cap goods and consumption. And we will request Rajesh ji to conduct the webinar on these sectors. So we will take last 3-4 question now. So basically I will try to address the question pertaining to sugar and ethanol as an industry. So I will skip other stocks as of now. So what about Bajaj Hindustan? Again, Bajaj Hindustan is a turnaround story. So we have already seen a lot of settlement on debt front for Bajaj Hindustan. At one point of time, that was one of the largest sugar mill in India, and we have already seen a lot of debt going off the book post settlement. So it's a turnaround story, high risk, high return story. So somebody who is willing to bet money on high risk, high return can definitely look at Bajaj Hindustan. But kindly, I am again reiterating the fact it is a high risk, high return stock. In case the company is unable to deliver a good profitability over the next 1 or 2 quarters, we may see correction in the stock price. And at the same time, if there is a good delivery on the number front, definitely stock can rally from here on. So, kindly adhere to your stop loss if you are a trader, and if you are an investor, kindly buy this stock only in a cash, the money which you have in the pocket, rather than buying this company on margin funding or on a leverage trade. So one question is on BCL industry. Sumit, would you like to take this?
Yeah, so BCL industry is also a major ethanol player, and it basically produces from maize and damaged grain. It does not have capacity from sugarcane, that is. And it also, ethanol, basically it sells to oil marketing companies as well as to the liquor companies. It is a integrated player in terms of power source. Also, it utilizes the agri feedstock. And if you look at the return ratios, they are quite decent. Growth wise, the company also, FY24 was a relatively better year as compared to FY23. And this company has seen bumper growth in FY21 and 22. So net the company, as far as the ethanol industry is concerned, is a decent company, but would still recommend to switch to the integrated players like Balrampur Chini and Gulshan Polyols. Because one thing is that, as I said earlier, ethanol from maize and rice, now that again depends on the production each year of these crops. So any year where there is a prospect of food inflation, so the government can easily divert this feedstock away from the ethanol industry. It also depends on the individual state governments as well, where if they feel they want to procure more rice for their free food programs and the for the public distribution system. So again, there could be restrictions on the procurement. So that is reflected in the stock price as well, where it has not done well for the last 1 to 1.5 year. So better to switch to the known names and the integrated names like Balrampur Chini, Gulshan Polyols, the companies as such.
So I think there are a lot of questions on Bajaj Hindustan. So we have already discussed this talk that that's a turnaround story. So there are a lot of positive development which we have seen from the company's fold, wherein the debt is something that has got settled, and it is expected that henceforth the company will run a profitable operations. But again, turnaround stories sometimes do fail. Sometimes the turnaround is ahead of time. Sometimes turnaround take a year or two against the expected timeline. So it's a high risk, high return stock. Kindly maintain your stop losses in case you are a trader. In case you are investor, kindly again ensure a proper asset allocation. And let us wait for the September quarter results and any update from the company. In case any commentary is positive or any steps by the government which is positive for the entire sugar industry can benefit Bajaj Hindustan also. So let us wait. It's a high risk, high return story. So kindly restrict your allocation to the Bajaj Hindustan to 2 to 3% of your entire portfolio. I think we have addressed most of the questions on pertaining to ethanol and sugar as an industry. And I think we are running out of time now. And I would like to extend my gratitude towards all of you for attending this webinar, for taking time out from your busy schedule and making this session interactive. And look forward to your participation in all our webinars, which are scheduled in the month of October. Yeah, that's all from last goodbye. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you everyone for attending, and we'll come soon with other webinars in October. So stay tuned. Yeah, thank you.